On this episode of Phinside The NFL, we're going to preview the Week 9 matchup between the Ravens and the Dolphins on Thursday Night Football. Plus, are the Miami Dolphins expected to make a move at the deadline? Seems like they are, and we will discuss that in depth. Also, could a win this week against the Ravens actually alter their trade deadline approach? We got a lot to discuss. Do me a favor, smash the like button. Subscribe if you are new, and as always, let's get into this.
You have got to be kidding me.
Jaelan has a Dolphin touchdown.
And he will score.
Field down the near side, man open, touchdown.
The run from Tua Tagovailoa.
Touchdown.
He's going deep. It's not over the touchdown again.
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go! What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we are back here for another one. Appreciate each and every one of you coming through for today's episode. I am back using StreamYard even for my solo shows just because of the audio issues we've been having for since August with Streamlabs. So I'm gonna go with this until they get that figured out, because it's just been a hassle. So I do appreciate all of you taking some time out of your day. I want to also start off by saying, let's go Blue Jays. All right, let's go. You know your boy had to get the World Series fitted. All right, I'll be back wearing my Dolphins hat tomorrow, but man, it is Game 5 of the World Series, and man, it's tied 2-2, so I need, we're sending out that mojo, we're sending out that energy. I could have gone real all out and put on my Paul Molitor or my Joe Carter jersey, but I decided to hold off on that. So gotta go for Game 5 of the World Series tonight, man. Look for after the game, I even got some baseball cards with Vladdy on the front to open up, so I'm locked in, baby. So let's talk about some few football things, though, all right? We got a lot to discuss with football, all right? So shout out to everyone in the chat showing love. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Y'all already know what time it is. All right. So let's talk about some football topics, shall we? First thing I want to discuss is, if you didn't have a chance to see yesterday, the New England Patriots, they actually acquired Kyle Duggar for a 2026 7th round pick. So the Patriots make a trade with the Steelers, sending Kyle Duggar out. It's crazy. They traded Kyle Duggar in a 7th round pick to the Steelers for a 6th round pick. And then the Patriots, they turned right around and they poached UDFA John Sanders Jr. right off of our practice squad. So John Sanders Jr., the Ole Miss product that showed a little bit of flashing in the preseason, he is now with the Patriots. All right. So I wanted to keep you guys updated on that. That was an interesting development last night, I thought. Something else that's going on that's quite interesting. Aidan Hutchinson, star pass rusher for the Detroit Lions, he went ahead and signed a 4-year deal worth $180 million with 141 of that million guaranteed. In practical terms, it's like a 5-year, $160.5 million contract. $56 million guaranteed at signing. Like I said, $141 million guaranteed. His year 2 cash is $50.4 million. His year 3 cash is $80.5 million. The money is out for a guy like Aidan Hutchinson, and I'm an Aidan Hutchinson fan, so I don't think that's I don't think that's a bad move in any by any stretch of the imagination. I think that's a pretty good move for sure. So Aidan Hutchinson signing a massive extension. Do I think Jim Harbaugh is that who we're being asked right now? Because I see you guys are asking about you guys are asking a lot about the Harbaughs in the. I don't think Jim Harbaugh has a chance. I think John Harbaugh is the one that's going to have a chance because of the way things are going in Baltimore right now. But I don't think I think it's going to be. I don't think we're going to be able to. I'm so. I don't know where this season's going to end, and we're going to talk about it in a little bit here, but I just got a bad feeling that everyone's going to return. I really do. I think, now, that said, I do think the GM market is a little stronger than the coaching market right now, but I got a feeling that everyone's going to return, much to many people's chagrin. That's what I think is going to happen. So, I wouldn't be holding my breath for anyone willing to come here to this mess in Miami right now. I really wouldn't. Not at all. And, especially if this team wins against the Ravens and starts stringing wins together, then oh boy. Then I think we're going to be in a position where we see a lot of people coming back next year. That's where we're at right now. And that's what sucks about it. It's not even about, it doesn't even feel like okay, where are they going to end up for a draft pick right now? It's like, okay, where are they going to end up and where are the people in charge going to end up? That to me is one of the biggest questions right now. 110%. So, I don't know. We'll see. I do not think the Miami Dolphins will be buyers at the trade deadline. I just don't think they're going to be buyers at the trade deadline. I think it's either going to be guys going out or holding tight to see how the season plays out. And I'm not even saying whether that's right or wrong. This is just the feeling I'm getting right now. So, I don't know. Guys, I need you to do me a favor, though, while you're here, okay? I need you to smash that like button. Let's get those likes up. We've got over 50 likes. Let's get those likes up to over 100 likes right now. Go ahead and smash that like button, all right? Smash it, smash it, smash it. Let's get those likes up, all right? I do want to shout out the sponsor of today's video, and that, of course, is Sleeper. Listen, the NFL season is well underway. That means you've got a chance to 1,000 times your cash on daily fantasy football. And football, it has never been more exciting for, well, fans of good teams right now. You got players like Jaden Daniels, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Jefferson, and so much more throughout the league. And you can pick on stats for these stars and many more, like touchdowns, passing yards, receiving yards, fantasy points, and more, for up to 1,000 times payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right. You can win big. Use promo code Phinside, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions do apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Go ahead, check out Sleeper today. And if you sign up right now, you don't even have to make a deposit. You sign up and you will receive a free $20 that you get to play around with. So go check out sleeper right now. Go claim that free $20. Go make some money on some football. All right. Continuing on here. All right. Let's start getting into things. Let's go ahead. I want to get into what Adam Schefter said yesterday. All right. I'm going to play the clip. We're going to go over it, but I want to show you guys exactly what Adam Schefter did say yesterday, because it seems like a trade is expected next week for the Miami Dolphins. So let's get into that.
A couple weeks ago, you set the over-under for number of trades at 15. At that point, we had already had a couple. Where do you stand today, a week out?
We've had 5 in the month of October. It looks like the under is going to come in right now. But I do think that we're going to get some activity between now and the Tuesday, November 4th, 4 p.m. Eastern trade deadline. I'm still counting and waiting on deals for wide receivers. We've got the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Buffalo Bills, the Denver Broncos, other teams that have made calls about wide receivers. We've got the New Orleans Saints sitting on a collection of wide receivers in which I think at least one will be dealt. And if I had to bet, I would say Rashid Shaheed is the guy that interests most teams for his speed and his talent, and the guy whose contract is up after this year, who the Saints, I think, would be most willing to part with if the compensation were fair and right. The New England Patriots have been open to moving off their former franchise or transition safety, Kyle Duggar. We'll see if that happens. I would bet he's no longer a Patriot by the time the trade deadline comes around on Tuesday, November 4th. I think the Miami Dolphins will move at least one of their pass rushers, Jaelan Phillips or Bradley Chubb. I think we'll get some other activity here. At some point in time, the Minnesota Vikings are going to have to add a veteran quarterback. I don't think it's a high-profile move, but look, when they traded Sam Howell before the season, they had Carson Wentz waiting in the wings. Carson Wentz has season-ending shoulder surgery. 2 quarterbacks on their roster are J.J. McCarthy and Max Brosmer, 2 young quarterbacks. Vikings have to add a veteran quarterback at some point in time here. I think there's going to be a flurry of activity after next week. One move I'm not expecting A.J. Brown to be traded, despite all the conversation.
So, I mean, you look at what he said there. First of all, this came out yesterday before the Kyle Duggar trade happened. So he nailed that. That's number one. Number two, you can hear what he said there, right? He said that he expects Bradley Chubb or Jaelan Phillips to be moved. Now, I'm going to have an update coming to the Patreons this week. Things I'm hearing regarding that whole situation. I might get it out before Thursday Night Football, but I will have a update coming for channel members as well as as well as Patreon members. I will have an update coming for you because I have heard stuff on their market. But I mean, right there and then, the expectation is that by next week, the Miami Dolphins will move off one of their pass rushers. Now, another name I would throw into that mix would more than likely be Matthew Judon. The thing is, with Judon, you're not getting very much, right? You can't really have high expectations. Here's the problem you're running into with Chubb and Phillips too. And let's specifically talk about Phillips. What is fair for Jaelan Phillips? Like, would you take a 5th round pick for Jaelan Phillips right now, who's 26 and might have his best football ahead of him? Like, that would be so Dolphins to trade him for like a 5th or 6th round pick, and then he turns around and he develops into the guy he was consistently flashing that he was going to develop into. Right? Like, I don't, and what's crazy is Phillips is probably who you're getting the most for. Right? Like, I don't even think you're getting much for Chubb this year. Like, man, I know Chubb has a few sack stats, but it hasn't been good. It's probably been his worst season in terms of setting the edge. He just hasn't been good. Right? And, I see in the chat, 3rd round. I don't think you're getting her 3rd or 4th for Jaelan Phillips right now. Now, if you get a bidding war and like the Philadelphia Eagles are all in, maybe. But I don't think you're getting that right now. And then you got to ask yourself, okay, is it better to try and see if we can bring him back on the cheap? And that's a good question. You know, if you're not getting much, how does moving Chubb's contract help us? It's not about Chubb's contract. So I think moving Bradley Chubb comes down to more so wanting to give more reps to Chop Robinson. You know, you heard Chop Robinson talk about it recently about how he even alluded to how he could use some more reps so he could start to get in a little bit more of a rhythm. You know, we can't have games where he's got 22, you know, pass rush snaps or, you know, or total snaps, sorry, not even pass rush snaps, but total snaps. I mean, we invested a top 25 pick in this kid. What are we doing here? Chubb is washed. Like, I don't think it's so much about Chubb's contract. It's about get what you can get for him right now because he has such a movable contract, and then go take the reins off Chop. That's what I think it comes down to. I think it comes down to more about player development. I think this is more how this impacts Chop Robinson. You know, I think that's why these guys are being discussed. Because if they could move Jaelan Phillips to the right price, you get a decent draft pick and you give more reps to Chop. If you can't move Jaelan Phillips, okay, move Chubb for anything you can get right now and then give more reps to Chop. I think this is what it comes down to right now. And I honestly think, and I've said this, I've been pretty consistent with it, I think it's going to be more of a Bradley Chubb deal than a Jaelan Phillips deal. To me, that makes more sense. Trading Bradley Chubb makes a lot more sense. I don't think you're going to be able to trade Matt Judon. I think that's just like, you know, I think that's like literally just like wishful thinking. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think you're going to be able to move Matt Judon. I really don't. That's just my opinion, though. All right. But we're not done. Let's keep with Jaelan Phillips and Bradley Chubb because Jeremy Fowler and Dwayne Graziano, they put out an article. Remember, the trade deadline is on Tuesday. So we are under a week away from the trade deadline. All right. So let's get into what they said right here. Will Jaelan Phillips or Bradley Chubb get moved? Here's Graziano. I believe one of them will, but which one I cannot say. I still think the Dolphins want to put a representative product on the field this season. They started 2-6 last year and recovered to win 6 of their next 8. So they know it's possible to get back to respectability, even if that doesn't result in a playoff spot. That said, with Tyreek Hill out for the year and the vibes around the team feeling different than they did a year ago, it's entirely possible that they'll deal players and look to the future. They'll have 4 days following Thursday night's game against Baltimore to ponder offers ahead of Tuesday's deadline. And there's no shortage of teams looking for pass rush help. Assuming they lose Thursday and drop to 2-7, it's going to be tempting for Miami to consider dealing players they don't imagine being part of the team in the future. So, I mean, here we are again, right? Now we're, Schefter expected one of those two to be traded. Now here's Dan Graziano basically doubling down and saying he expects one of the two to be traded. And he even, gets into, well, what happens if they lose this week, right? So, again, my thing with what he said there, though, this is where my holdup is. This is where I'm coming back to, okay, what good is respectability at this point? The expectation was playoff win or bust. Not, well, let's finish with a respectable record. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing here? Is this all for Stephen Ross to save face? Is this all for, well, if they turn it around? Because think about this. I want you to think about this. Think about this for a second. If Stephen Ross has shown this much patience up until this point, all right? If he's shown this much patience up until 2-6, if this team turns it around and finishes 8-9, he's not going to fire no one. He's not going to fire a damn person. You know why? Because you're going to say, see, I waited it out. I showed some patience. And look, they won the majority of the final games on their schedule. That's exactly what he's going to say. Like, we've got 9 games left. If this team wins 7 of the next 9, that's exactly what he is going to say. See, I showed a little patience. They started to get their act together, but it was just because of the bad start. Because now you're put in a position where, okay, bro, if you showed this much patience over a 2-6 start, and then they win 7 out of the last, they win, 6 of the last 9. You got to show more patience again. Like, he's not going to walk that back. He's not going to say, well, they started off, 2-6, but then they went 6-3 the rest of the way. And blah, blah, blah. Like, we are right back to where we were last year at the end of the season. We are right back there. But we got to play for respectability, right? Brother, respect is out the window. Either win a playoff game or put this team in a position to get the best draft picks possible so we can continue to build this roster out. Like, enough of this middle ground of mediocrity. That's what we lived through in the Tannehill years. I'm not trying to relive that. Like, either I want to be picking in the top 10 or I want to be picking in the late 20s, not in between, especially every freaking year. So, I read that stuff and I'm like, are you serious? Now, in that same article, Jeremy Fowler said something quite interesting, and this brings upon another question that we've got to ask. So let me show you exactly what I mean by that. So you see here, while the Dolphins might not be moving a bunch of players at the deadline, they are open to trading pass rusher Matthew Judon. I mean, who wouldn't be? He's a name I keep hearing when it comes to their rushers. Teams say Jaelan Phillips has the most value of Miami's edge rushers, but there's not much buzz that Miami is motivated to move Jaelan Phillips so far. Overall, Miami is not punting on the 2025 season and will treat the trade deadline as such from what I was told. The Dolphins won't shut down a good deal, but are not shopping a litany of players. So what does this tell us right now? What does this tell us right now? This tells us that you have got to pay over market value to get a Jaelan Phillips right now. That's exactly what that's telling you. All right, you guys want a cheap pass rusher? Okay, yeah, we'll trade you Matt Judon. You want Jaelan Phillips? Well, we're not really motivated to trade him, so you better make the offer enticing. Now, I do know Jaelan Phillips. I can confirm from what I've heard, Jaelan Phillips has garnered the most interest. So there's no reason to prop him up even further. That's the guy people are most interested in. But look at this. Miami is not punting on the 2025 season and will treat the trade deadline as such. Normally, I would balk at that and be like, okay, they're trying to leverage through the media. But with the patience Stephen Ross has shown through the 2-6 start, does that really surprise anyone? And I'll do you one better. God forbid if they win in Baltimore, in Miami against Baltimore tomorrow night, there ain't going to be no way they're going to trade anyone. They're going to being back to believing again. Because they beat a 2-5 team. That's actually the part that frustrated me the most about reading that, was that Fowler is hearing that we're not ready to punt the season yet. Now, could a loss force them to punt the season? Maybe. But I'm telling you, if this team wins tomorrow night, and then let's talk about their trade deadline approach. We've already heard what the trade deadline approach is. Greer is going to be working in unison with Stephen Ross, Tom Garfinkel, and Dan Silman. Trust me, I don't have really super high expectations for the outcome of that one. Let's be real. So, man, absolutely. Just, man, what are we doing here? I mean, anyone wants to go right now that isn't a rookie or a key core player like an Achane or a Waddle? I mean, what are we even saying with our life? I'm good. Seriously. Let's move on with our lives. I do want to shout out one of our best players in the front seven and on defense. Jordyn Brooks was named AFC Defensive Player of the Week with 10 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, and a sack. So shout out to Jordyn Brooks. He's been, he's had his up and down moments, but when you talk about consistency, he's probably been consistently our best player in the front seven, for sure. So shout out to Jordyn Brooks. Love to see it. Love to see it from Jordyn Brooks. All right, let's get into this game preview. We got a game tomorrow. We got Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime. Over 250 of you in the chat right now. Smash that like button, please. Do me the favor. Smash that like button. Smash it. Let's get those likes up right now. Our like goal was to get over 150. We are at 96. So we are at 54 more likes. Go ahead, smash that like button. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. We are only a few away from righting the mistake YouTube did by deleting all of those subscribers. So go ahead and smash the like button. And if you're new, go ahead and subscribe as we're on the way to 20K. So let's get into this week's game. And for all of you heading out there, tomorrow is Devil's Night. Ooh. So let's see what we got in store for y'all. Tomorrow night looks like it's going to be between 71 to 73 degrees. You're going to have wind gusts out of the northwest, anywhere from 7 to 9 miles per hour. They might actually get up to 12 miles per hour. They might even get up to 20. All right. There's only about an 8% chance of precipitation. Cloud cover's going to be anywhere from 7 to 9%. So it's going to be a nice night in Miami. It's going to be a nice night for football. And I say this all the time. If you're heading to the game, please, 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 please remember to be safe, drink responsibly, but most of all, have fun. So that is your weather report for this week. Now, fresh off the presses, we have the injury report for this week. All right, let's get into it. Here is your injury report. Julian Hill is out. Ashtyn Davis is doubtful. Bradley Chubb's questionable. D.S. Rich is questionable. Jason Marshall Jr. is questionable. Ifeatu Melifonwu is questionable, but they'll be good to go, right? D.S. Rich is a full participant today. Ifeatu Melifonwu was full today. Jason Marshall was full all week. so I assume he'll be good to go. Bradley Chubb will probably be good to go. On the other side, they're pretty much good to go. Nothing really to report. So, I mean, once we start getting back Austin Jackson and James Daniels, we're going to have a pretty, for the most part, other than obviously like Tyreek Hill, Storm Duck, and Kader Kohu, we're going to have, for the most part, a pretty healthy team, a pretty healthy roster. So now, that said, those are some big injuries. When I mentioned Storm Duck, Kohu, those are like two of our top corners. And then when I mentioned, obviously, Tyreek Hill, arguably our best weapon next to Achane, right? So those are big, big losses. So that's your injury report for this week. Now, how do these two teams stack up? How do they compare? Okay, this is how these two teams stack up. All right, this is how these two teams stack up when you get into it. The total offense is 28th for the Dolphins. For the Ravens, it is 21st. All right. The passing offense, the Dolphins, they are 26th in the NFL. The Ravens, they are 28th. Now, the problem here with them being 28th is this. They didn't have Lamar. The Dolphins, they have had Tua this year. Rushing offense, when you look at it, the Dolphins, they are 23rd in the NFL. Now they are moving up. The Ravens, they are 8th. Now, what's impressive about them being 8th in terms of rushing offense is this. No matter how good or how bad this team is, they're always one of the best rushing teams in the NFL. And it don't matter whether they got Derrick Henry or like a guy like Gus Edwards, right? Under the Harbaugh regime, they've always been able to run the football. They're a top 10 rushing offense. In terms of scoring offense, the Ravens, they're 14th. The Dolphins are 21st. Now, the reason why they're top 15 scoring offense is because they can still run the ball. Even if their passing offense is 28th, the fact that they can still run the ball still makes them deadly enough. Right? That's the thing. So that is what is interesting about that. Now, in terms of sacks allowed, the Ravens, they've allowed 22. The Dolphins, they've allowed 18. Third down offense, the Ravens are 11th on third down offense. Again, if you can't pass the football, but you got Derrick Henry and you can run the ball, you're going to convert third downs, especially if you get in third and shorts. The Dolphins, they are now 9th in third down offense. Now remember, last week they were 13th. 2 or 3 weeks ago, they were 3rd in the NFL. So they had a really strong week last week in terms of third down offense. Total defense, the Ravens, they are 28th. The Dolphins are 23rd. The Dolphins are now boast the 11th best passing defense. The Ravens have the 28th passing defense. So Tua did what he did last week against the number 1 pass defense that the Falcons had. Now you get against the number 28 passing defense. Rushing defense, both of them not very good. Dolphins 28th, Ravens 23. Scoring defense, the Ravens are 30th. They're allowing 30 points per game. Dolphins 26th, they're allowing about 26.9 points per game. In terms of sacks, the Ravens, they've only got 9 this year. That's 30th in the NFL. They're not getting home a lot. The Dolphins, they have 15. That's 21st in the NFL. Third down defense, both not very good. Ravens allowing a conversion clip of about 44.3%. Dolphins about just over 1 percentile better, allowing a conversion rate of about 43.2%. Takeaways, Ravens, they have only 4. The Dolphins, they have 7. In terms of giveaways, the Ravens have given the ball away 10 times. The Dolphins, they've given the ball away 12 times. So, there you go. That is how these two teams do stack up. That is how these two teams do compare heading into this week. All right. So, listen, it still amazes me. Like, you're going to have to be able to stop the run. Like, there's just flat out no way around it. You're going to have to be able to stop the run. You're going to have to be able to do it. Like, you're going to have to be able. And, I don't know if can this team do it? Possibly. But, you're going to have to string together some performances like we saw last week to even stand a chance. Because Lamar's coming back, and that team is going to be, they're going to have a little oomph in their step. Right? So, that's just where we're at. So, let's do it. Let's go ahead and get into my keys to victory. All right? Let's get into my keys to victory for this. So let's get into my keys to victory. Let's start off with my offensive keys to victory. So my offensive keys to victory, number one, you got to keep being creative. You have to keep being creative. What do I mean by that? You got to keep doing like what you did last week where you had the 6 offensive linemen. We need this creativity back in this game. Period. All right? We need creativity in the pass game. You've got to keep throwing wrinkles that are going to catch these defenses you face off balance, basically. You got to catch them off guard. You got to get them off balance. And you got to keep and creativity is the only way you're going to be able to do that. Look at, we saw a run wrinkle and look at how well it worked. And then on top of that, he stuck with it and look at the results we got. So you got to keep doing that kind of stuff. Figure it out because you're going against defenses and teams that have seen everything. Are they going to stick with the 6th lineman, the jumbo package? I would hope so. That would be smart. Number 2, you got to stick to being a run-heavy offense. You guys saw the results last week. The results spoke for themselves. Period. All right? You ran the ball 37 times for 141 yards. You only threw the ball 27 times. How often do we see the Dolphins run 10 more times than they pass by the time the day is done? It's very rare. Very, very rare. You got to stick to that formula. The mix-up of Devon Achane, Ollie Gordon, and Jaelan Wright, their physiques, the way they run the ball, the physicality some of them run with, and then the speed of Achane to mix it up. It's a good combination. It's going to keep defenses on their heels. So you need to stick to being a run-heavy offense. 30 to 35 carries has always been and will always be the sweet spot for this offense. Tua has never been a guy to drop back 40 to 45 times since Alabama. I don't know where this thought process came from. I don't know what we're trying to prove, but that's never been his style of game. Ever. So, and then number 3 is simple. Tua needs to stay locked in against the number 28 pass defense. Tua last week against the number 1 pass defense in the NFL that the Falcons had, 20 of 26, 205 yards, 4 touchdowns, 138.6 passer rating. You need to stay locked in. That's all there is to it. I don't know what else to tell you. If you did what you did against the number 1 pass defense, you should be able to do it again. Now, these kind of play into each other, though. You know, I mean, we were back to seeing vintage Tua with that 76.9% completion percentage. But these two play into each other, right? By being creative and with that run-heavy defense, what was it doing? Linebackers start to cheat and step up and pull up. You start clearing that middle of the field because defense starts cheating, especially on the second level, to play the run. And that is what really helped Tua last week. We ran the football well. It opened up the middle of the field. And he was slicing and dicing. That's what you need to do. Tua needs to stay locked in against a number 28 pass defense. And if you stick to being a run-heavy offense with some creativity, you're going to create problems for that defense. That's when Tua's at his best. That's when this offense is at its best, is when we're running the ball. Why did we put 70 points up on the Denver Broncos in 2023? Because we were running the ball. Because we had our offensive line healthy, and we were running the ball, and we were winning in the trenches. And that's really what this comes down to as well. I could add a fourth key here. Continue to win in the trenches and at the line of scrimmage like you did last week, and good things are going to happen. For real. So those are my offensive keys to victory. Keep being creative like we saw this past week with the 6th offensive lineman jumbo package wrinkle. Keep being creative. Stick to being a run-heavy offense. You ran the ball 37 times compared to throwing it 27 last week. And Tua needs to stay locked in against the number 28 pass defense. And I mean, I could even say this. We saw Ollie Gordon converting short. I mean, I thought another thing last week that the offense did really well was a lot of third and manageables, right? A lot of, okay, we're second and 6, you know, like a lot of third and manageables. When you stay in third and manageable, it's going to be a lot easier to convert those third downs. And last week, I do think that is a big reason why the Dolphins were 6 of 13 on third down, was because they were keeping a lot of them manageable. Shout out to Penn. She came through and gifted 5 Phinside the NFL memberships. Penn's always building the Phinside fam. Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you very much. All right, continuing on here. We ain't done. My defensive keys to victory. So, number 1 is going to be you got to force Lamar to win from the pocket, not with his legs and out of structure. The Miami Dolphins, since before McDaniels, since before Flores, this has been something they haven't been able to deal with for a very, very long time, no matter who the coach or the personnel was. Now, we have had games where we have been able to neutralize Lamar Jackson. All right? You know, I'll give you a perfect example of that. A couple years ago, in 2021, where we beat them 22-10, right? But the thing is, Lamar started figuring it out in the fourth quarter, but it was too late. It was too late. Remember, when they started figuring out what we were doing defensively and how we were blitzing them, it was far too late. Remember, we were killing them with the blitzes and the cover zero. And by the time Lamar figured it out, it was late into the fourth quarter. And it just didn't go well for him. Right? Now, so you got to force Lamar to beat you from the pocket. There's just no other ifs, ands, or buts about it. You got to find a way to force him to beat you. Now, we've said this before about other guys, and they beat you from the pocket. I mean, there's simply no doubt about that. I mean, how many times have we forced Josh Allen to the pocket and he's beat us? But we've also kept him in check sometimes too, right? So, but Lamar this year, I mean, you know, when you look at his games this year, he's only thrown 1 interception. You know, he was against Buffalo, he's 14 of 19 for 209 and 2 touchdowns. And then he had 6 carries for 70 yards and a touchdown. Against Kansas City, 14 of 20, 147, a touchdown and interception. But against Detroit, he was phenomenal, right? He was 21 of 27 for 288 and 3 touchdowns, and then 7 carries for 35 yards. Against Cleveland, he lit them up, 19 of 29 for 4 touchdowns. So, I mean, you got to do more like what KC did. You got to find a way to bottle them up. You got to find a way to bottle them up real quick. All right? I think the run defense needs to build off of balling up Bijan Robinson last week. Remember, Bijan Robinson was, 5th or 6th in rushing yards heading into that game last week, right? He had almost 1,000 all-purpose yards heading into that game. And the Miami Dolphins just totally shut him down, right? I mean, at half, he had 12 yards on 5 carries in the first half. You know? I mean, it was just phenomenal stuff we saw. The front seven, and it really started the week before. Now, I know Quinshaw Judkins got in the end zone 3 times, but they did limit the explosive runs Quinshaw Judkins was putting up against him. But they held Bijan to 9 carries to 25 yards. Tyler Algier, 4 carries for 4 yards. The team, 17 carries for 45 yards. You have got to find a way to repeat that. Because this week you are going up against one of the best running backs in the league in Derrick Henry. You know, Derrick Henry he's averaging about 4.7 yards per carry right now. Right? He's got 510 yards. He's got 6 touchdowns. So that run defense has got to find a way, and that's not even mentioning Lamar Jackson. He's got 166 yards in 4 games. He's averaging 7.9 yards per carry. Justice Hill is averaging 5.6 yards per carry. Keaton Mitchell, when they gave him the ball this year, is averaging 7.3 yards per carry. They can run the ball. They do not have a running back on the roster right now that has gotten at least 1 carry or more that is averaging less than 5 yards per carry right now. Think about that for a second. So that run defense needs to be locked in. All right. And then number 3 for me is you're going to have to get off the field on 3rd down. All right. You're going to have to find a way to get off the field on 3rd down. Remember, they're the number 11 3rd down offense right now. But you are coming off of a game last week where you only allowed the Falcons to convert 2 of 11 3rd downs. I actually think with how great the defense was on 3rd down. I mean, the Falcons were 0 for 5 on 3rd down offensively in the first half. That was one of the keys, right? You were getting them off the field on 3rd down, and then the offense was turning around and scoring. What did that do? 0 for 5, right, on 3rd down in the first half were the Falcons last week. And you outscored them 17-3. That's also how you're going to take Derrick Henry out of the game. Is if you can get off the field on 3rd down defensively and then turn around and the offense can reward you with points consistently. That is another way of taking Derrick Henry out of this game. 110%. That's another way you can take him out. And that's what you're going to have to do. So force Lamar to win from the pocket, not with his legs and out of structure. Run defense needs to build off balling up Bijan last week and get off the field on 3rd down. Shout out to Dad Dean. He said, reason my granddaughter Riley was just born at 9:33. Dad Dean even went ahead and donated. Brother, I'd already started the free comment. I was just in the middle of talking, and I wanted to get to it and give it its own time. Congratulations, man. That's awesome, awesome news. I mean, I can't speak for it, but I have, obviously, my mother is a grandmother and stuff. And, I mean, hey, look at it this way. What I hear is it's much easier the second time around, right? Like grandchildren, they're the type that they're like your own kid, but just not with all the responsibility. Your children have that responsibility. So enjoy it, man, as your family grows. That's awesome to hear, Daddy Dean. I appreciate you. And man, enjoy it. Enjoy it, enjoy it, enjoy it. No matter how bad the Miami Dolphins are, you'll always be able to find peace and solace when you look in her eyes. So enjoy that blessing, my friend. I hear Vegas might want Tua. Your thoughts? I mean, what are we talking about here? You know, I think my personal thought process is this. If you want to move off of Tua, if you are dead set on moving off Tua, I would try, and you might have to eat some money. But I think McVay and the Rams are the ones to call. I think McVay and the Rams are the ones to call for that. Honestly. That's who I'd be calling. I've said this over and over again. You know, I think he would be a fit there. I think they could make it work. And I think you might actually get something out of it. But, you know, Vegas, hey, man, if they're down, I mean, what are you offering? What are you offering right now? Because, and people are looking at me sideways like, you know, Reason, you're such a big Tua supporter. Guys, I still support Tua. I wanted a quarterback last year. I wanted Baker Mayfield after Tua got hurt and wasn't able to play in the playoff game in 2022, and we had to field Skylar Thompson against the Buffalo Bills. The problem we are at right now is, let's say Tua stays healthy this year, but we don't make the playoffs. Okay, that's not good, number one. Number two, does you really think that resets the fact that he could be one concussion away from basically putting this franchise in the position where we don't have a starting franchise quarterback? That's the other reality here too. Tua is literally one hit away from us having to reevaluate the quarterback position as a whole in Miami. Not even taking in his play. That's the problem. Now, if Tua had had a clean bill of health for the majority of his career, I wouldn't be sitting here saying all of this. I wouldn't be as on board for Jackson Dart last year. I wouldn't be as on board with Baker Mayfield after 2022. I wouldn't be as on board with, you know, a Ty Simpson, a Dante Moore, a Mendoza, or if you have the right coaching staff, a Lenore Sellers, a Taylor Green, or my guy who's coming up, I'm starting to really like him more and more, Brandon Sorsby. Right? Because I don't think John Mateer's coming out this year, so I left him out of there. So that's where I'm at with that situation, right? So, and yeah, every player is one hit away, 110%, but Tua is much closer to that one hit away than most other quarterbacks. I mean, him and Joe Burrow are arguably the most injury-prone quarterbacks in the NFL. And I said this a couple days ago. Don't be surprised when Cincinnati, in the next couple of years, if this continues, looks to move off of Joe Burrow. I think that's going to happen too. Because of the injuries. It's real. I think that conversation is going to start to get real around Joe Burrow if he gets hurt again next year. I honestly, because look at, what is he going to be like 4 or 5 years removed from the Super Bowl run? Now, what saves him is last year he had an MVP year. Joe Burrow threw for over 40 touchdowns last year. Has Tua ever thrown for over 30 yet? And I'm just being objective here. You know what I mean? And Burrow was doing it with like no help defensively. So, listen, I've said this though. If you're not taking a quarterback in this draft, I want Fano or Moigoa. I want one of those right tackles because I want Austin Jackson out of here. So, But all right, my matchup to watch for this week. Here is my matchup to watch this week. This would be Miami's front seven versus Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. All right. If you can stop the run and you can force them to become a pass first team, you're going to win this game. I truly believe this. If you can find a way to bottle up Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson in the run game, you're going to win this game. I honestly, truly believe this. I really honestly believe that wholeheartedly. You will win this game if you find a way to bottle them up. So that is my matchup to watch. It's Miami's front seven versus Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Kenneth Grant strung together some good games. I thought Jordyn Phillips was good last week. Jordan Brooks continues to be fantastic. So, I mean, this is my matchup to watch. Miami's front seven for the second week in a row. Last week it was them against Bijan. Now it's them against Lamar and Derrick Henry. That's where I'm at. Guys, do me the favor, smash the like button. If you are new, please go ahead and subscribe. The like goal for this video was 150. We are 6 away from that like goal. Smash that like button. Let's get to 150 while we are live. And then while we're not live, if you see it, keep smashing the like button. Let's get to 400 likes on this video, all right? Let's get those likes up right now. Smash that like button. Smash it, smash it, smash it. I am going to be live for the game tomorrow. Make sure you tune in for the live reaction. And what do I think is going to go down? I am going to take the Dolphins winning this game. Yeah, I got them upsetting the Ravens. I really honestly do. I'm going to take the Miami Dolphins winning this game. It's that defense allowing like 30 points a game, right? So I'm going to take the Miami Dolphins 27. And I am going to take the Baltimore Ravens 23. 27-23 Miami Dolphins is what I am predicting. All right? Like I said, do me the favor. Smash that like button. All right? Let's get those likes up. All right? Have we passed our goal yet? We have passed our goal. So I'm going to get out of here. I will see you guys on the next one. Until then, you already know what time it is. Fins up all day, every day. Have a fantastic rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, day, whenever you're watching this. And I'll see y'all for the game. Go Jays.